And now on the line is Andreas G. Wolff. Andreas is a correspondent with BBC Scotland, and today is his second time to be on this programme on Near FM. Andreas, welcome back to Near FM.
Good Jimmer Patu.
Go Andreas, the Scottish Parliament elections were held only around 6 weeks ago, and in terms of Scots Gaelic speaking members being elected to the current new Parliament, the election was disappointing, wasn't it, Andreas?
That's right, Darren. There were a number of fluent Gaelic speakers in the previous Parliament, not least the Deputy Prime Minister, the Deputy First Minister, who was a fluent Gaelic speaker. She's now retired from Parliament, and so have the others. So, although there are some members of Parliament who have some knowledge of Gaelic, my understanding is that there's nobody who's fully fluent.
It's very disappointing. I only found out about it recently. Okay, just for the benefit of our listeners, Andreas, you're a correspondent with the BBC, but you are, I believe, based in the northwest of Scotland, aren't you? So you weren't, for instance, covering the anti-Muslim attacks in Edinburgh recently, were you?
No, that's right. I'm based on the west coast near Oban, and I cover an area in the West Highlands of Scotland. So yes, Edinburgh isn't normally my patch. That's right.
But were you covering the Scottish Parliament election yourself in general, were you?
I was covering the elections for this region here, namely for the constituency of Argyll and Bute, which includes a large number of islands, most of the Inner Hebrides, and so in this area there was not really a big surprise. The SNP MSP, so that's the member of the Scottish Parliament for Argyll and Bute, Jenny Minto, was re-elected here.
I found it a little surprising that Alistair Allen, the MSP for the SNP for the Hill on Ear, lost the seat. Were you?
Well, I mean, I think many people were maybe not so surprised. That is due to the fact that the ferry network here on the West Coast has been suffering from a large number of disruptions due to technical issues with the ferries. And that, I think it's fair to say, has been due to underinvestment in the ferry network over a number of years by the SNP government, although they are now investing a lot of money, but it hasn't quite filtered through, or it hadn't quite filtered through prior to the election. I think we are now seeing the improvements, but it hadn't filtered through, and I think people in the Western Isles were just trying to send a message to the government that they were very, very unhappy about this.
Just coming back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, I personally find it a bit disappointing that Alistair Allen lost the seat, in the sense that he is a fluent Gaelic speaker, and the new MSP for the Hill on and Ear, the Labour guy, I don't know his name, but he doesn't speak it much, doesn't he not?
I believe that is true. When we have him on the programme, he speaks in English. So, yes, I believe he's not a fluent Gaelic speaker, although I haven't met him personally yet. But the MP for the Western Isles, who is also Labour, Torkel Crichton, so that's the Member of Parliament for the Westminster Parliament, he is a fluent Gaelic speaker, and he is on our programmes regularly.
All right, I didn't know he was a fluent Gaelic speaker. Okay, Andreas, in terms of the Scottish Parliament and also the BBC, is there much to look forward to in terms of the future of Scots Gaelic over the short to medium term? Do you think, like, I know that there is, for instance, a Languages Act in Scotland now, and there is a lot of talk in some quarters about the demand for Gaelic medium education, isn't there?
There certainly is a lot of stuff going on, Darren, not least the areas of linguistic significance. It's a bit of a mouthful, unfortunately. They're essentially the Scottish equivalent of a Gaeltacht, but they've chosen this rather long name because they also want to give the opportunity to Scots language speaking areas, I presume in the northeast, but also in other parts of Scotland, to designate areas of linguistic significance there. And we don't know exactly yet what this is going to mean. We don't know what support is going to be available in these areas. But for example, Highland Council has decided to designate the whole of their area as an area of linguistic significance. In Argyll and Bute, where I am, we don't know yet what's exactly going to happen, but I do know that the council are looking at this very closely, and I do know that some areas of Argyll and Bute will be designated, and I presume the same will happen in the Western Isles. So that is certainly significant, I think. But also more at a grassroots level, I can say that here in Argyll and Bute, over the last few years, things have happened. We now have more Gaelic learners groups around the area, and I've seen people, achieve levels of fluency that previously weren't Gaelic speakers. So it's still very small, but in an area where maybe 10 years ago there were very, very few fluent Gaelic speakers, I do think the situation is very slowly improving.
Okay, and in terms of your work with the BBC, I think you kind of already answered this, but are you seeing an improvement in maybe the numbers of people who can contribute in Gaelic to your news programs?
Well, that's hard to say. It's swings and roundabouts. Unfortunately, at Argyll and Bute Council, the last fluent Gaelic-speaking councillor has died in the last couple of years or so, and that's a bit of a shame for my work. But as I said, yes, in the community, there are more and more people coming through in some parts of the area. There are other parts, for example, in the south of Kintyre, from where you can see Ireland, where the numbers of Gaelic speakers are currently very thin, and I'm going to have to look very hard to find someone there to speak to.
I know that the Western Isles and the Highlands are kind of like the spiritual home of Gaelic in Scotland, or I think they are anyway. But am I right in saying, Andreas, that the vast majority of Scots Gaelic speakers in Scotland actually live not in the Highlands but on the Western Isles, do they?
Yes, the majority of native Gaelic speakers live in the Western Isles, that's right. Although there are variations within the Western Isles as well. Some islands are stronger than others, but yes. I do, however, believe that in the last census, for the first time ever, the majority of people in the Western Isles were, considered English their first language. So that was a bit disappointing. However, the council are trying. I thought it was quite positive to see that they changed their policy in that parents now don't have to choose Gaelic. Gaelic is the default as the language of instruction for their children, unless they choose English. So, it's a small step, but I think it's significant. There are these hopeful developments in various places around the country. And then, last not least, Gaelic medium education, especially in Glasgow, has been going from strength to strength. I believe they now have 4 fully fledged Gaelic medium primary schools, as opposed to just Gaelic medium units. So I think that is quite an achievement. And of course, the first ever Gaelic-speaking Gaelic medium secondary school is also in Glasgow.
And there is a demand for more Gaelic medium schools in other parts of Scotland as well, isn't there?
Well, yes. I mean, here in there are Gaelic medium schools in Inverness, in Fort William, and in Portree. And there was quite a strong campaign here in Oban to have one here as well. But the council, how can I phrase this politically correct? The council undertook a consultation in a way which some campaigners didn't see was very fair or positive, and the outcome of the consultation was such that the council felt no need to establish a Gaelic medium school here. So I think the legislation around Gaelic medium schools has now tightened or improved, and maybe a better word, and who knows, maybe the parent council in Oban is going to have another go at it, but I don't know.